Hi, everyone, and welcome to the Dance Teacher Pep Talk. I am your host, Amanda, and I am so glad you are here. This is a space for dance teachers and anyone interested in teaching dance who is looking for motivation and fresh ideas. As teachers, we spend our days motivating and giving pep talks to our students, and now this podcast is a pep talk just for you. We hope that it helps to ignite new ideas and even work through some deep dance related thoughts before you head into the studio. Thank you for your support, and now let's get into today's episode. Hi, everybody, and welcome to today's episode of Dance Teacher Pep Talk. I apologize if the intro is a little echoey. My normal recording equipment is not working, but I just wanted to give a brief introduction into today's episode because it is such a beautiful one and one that I feel has so many messages that are so important for us to hear as educators. In today's episode, I interview a former student, Sadie Guthrie, and I've known Sadie for many, many years. And what I loved about today's episode is that it really shows the progression and path of a dancer who all her life was just so filled with passion for dance, knew she wanted to make it a part of her career. And this episode really goes into the path that she took to get there. She moved from small town Massachusetts to big city LA and had so many beautiful stops along the way in her journey that I'm just so excited for you to hear about. Upon graduating, Sadie attended the inaugural year of the CLI Conservatory led by Teddy Forrence, and the wealth of knowledge that she gained there helped to propel her further to where she is now, breaking out in the industry in LA. It's funny to me introducing her as a former student because I feel that though I was a teacher role in her life, she has always been a teacher in my life as well. There has been so many things that I've learned from Sadie over the years, from young ages to now, and I think that's such an important thing for us as teachers to remember or to feel comfortable with, that yes, your title might be teacher, but when you look out in your classroom, the teachers are staring right back at you or sending the energy back to you. And there is so much learning that we can find and grow from with our students. And we kind of talk about this in the episode, but something that I was reflecting on after speaking with Sadie is, this is a person that I've known for, like I said, many, many years. But when we are standing up in front of the classroom, if we're not taking that opportunity to learn from what's in front of us, it can become a very sort of lifeless or disconnected class experience, because we might be bringing the material in and we might feel that we're doing our job bringing the material in, teaching the skills, seeing the progress being made and things like that. But if we're not becoming what Sadie talks about in this episode, a reciprocated energy with the students that we have, we are not really creating the most immersive class experience that we can. And where can we create these opportunities for that experience to occur? Because it's not just about the things that we're teaching, but it's also about the things that we're learning. And so Sadie really talks about this in a beautiful way in today's episode. She also talks about what the choreography scene is like in LA right now. She talks about different things that have helped her on her journey to find and continue to find her artistic voice in many different outlets. And she is such a beautiful speaker, and I'm just so excited to have her here for you all to hear from on today's episode. So let's get into today's episode with Sadie Guthrie. Hi, Sadie. I'm so glad that you are here and that you're doing this. I have had the joy of watching you grow through your young years of dance until about age 18. And what has always blown me away about you is you have completely taken and forged your own path in this dance world. And I think it's so important to share about that. And so I was so happy that you were able to come on to give our listeners the story of your journey so far. And so to start off, I would love if you could introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about what you do.
First of all, thank you. And my name is Sadie Guthrie. I'm 21 years old. I started dancing when I was like 2 to 3, up until now. Dance has always been like one of my greatest, deepest passions, and I'm so grateful to keep evolving on a journey with it. I moved to Los Angeles about a year ago to continue creating dance-wise, choreography-wise, artistically-wise, and I'm just interested in a lot of different artistic endeavors.
That is so great. I know I'm so excited to talk about your LA journey. This is so huge. I mean, we come from a small town in Massachusetts, so I'm so excited to get into that as we go on in the podcast today. So, before getting to where you are now, and we'll be talking about LA soon, I knew you as a child, I knew you as a teenager. And, as I mentioned before, something that always moved me is, you kind of forged your own path through this dance world. But aside from that, you've always been a very exemplary student. And within all of that, you have found your own sense of movement, your own unique style. And honestly, sometimes when I watch you, I don't even know how what you learned from the classes that were taught to you, how you even got to that place. And so to start off, I was kind of curious if you could talk about what were the ways that your style and your movement began to grow, and how did you get there? Were there tools or practices that you had in place to open up this amazing movement that is your own?
So I think like growing up, I always just had the natural instinct to move. Like I would always be improving almost every day, a lot, just constantly from like when I started dancing up until now. So that just opens a lot of space for different pathways and self-exploration, along with just like creating by myself. I also have done that my whole time growing up. And I think just like the more layers, the more that I learned about myself, the more that was brought to my consciousness in a lot of different aspects within my life, the more I realized that it all like interconnected and intertwined with dance. So the deeper that I learned about myself and my life experiences, the more I was able to tie them in to what I was doing. And a lot of it is just like exposure and becoming conscious and aware. And like once you have that, you kind of have the key to keep unlocking and keep growing and keep playing.
I have always noticed that about you with your improv. You always seemed so comfortable in it. And honestly, I wonder, is that the case? Have you always been comfortable with improv, or were there ever times in your life where you ever felt self-conscious with it?
Yeah, so growing up, improv felt really natural to me when it was in styles or with songs that felt more familiar to me. Anything that kind of ranged out of something that I hadn't touched upon yet with myself, like different music or different styles, could be uncomfortable. But I would say it's always been like a more comforting practice, unless I'm more foreign with it.
Yeah, it's so interesting because, I have my daughter now, and it's so interesting for me to watch like a child with no training in the sense of, structure or things like that, just dance because the music moves her in that way. And, nothing is prompted, nothing is given. She just, if it's a song she loves, she just, loves to move to it. And so when we approach improv in our classes, I've started to like think on that because, growing up, when we did improv in class, at times it was structured. I would say different prompts or things like that. And, through your time, how has your experience with improv changed from maybe doing those classroom exercises to just kind of more of an exploration type of class experience?
Yeah, I've definitely like had experiences with improv being more structured and having it not be so structured. And there's like so much value in both. Because a lot of what I learned is like consciously integrating like certain tasks or certain aspects into my improv and like working on them and like drilling them into my conscious. So then like once I've worked on that and can kind of let it go, I have a whole palette of textures or tasks to pull from that I don't always need to be like consciously thinking of, which has allowed me to respond to things more intuitively, and think less about it. So I think it's been really nice to have practices with structure. And then it's also really nice to abandon structure.
Is there any type of improv or like a specific style of improv that you are particularly drawn to these days?
I mean, my style is very fusiony, like contemporary fusiony. So like anything in that direction. It's more so like driven by the music too, and then the movement just comes from that.
Yeah, I love that. I have noticed that about you, though, specifically, musicality has always been something that I think has come very naturally to you. And I don't necessarily feel that I see that in all dancers. I think musicality is something that can be worked on, especially, if you go into breaking down instruments or analyzing music and kind of like talking about instruments themselves. But with you, I've always noticed you've had that natural musicality. And so it is interesting to know that finally that it is music that has driven you so much because it's so clearly seen in the way that you move.
Definitely. Yeah, music is a big driving force.
So, talking about improv, how you have developed, how you're growing, I remember you teaching for the first time in front of me at the studio. We were doing a program that is, very near to my heart because I feel that it's so important to give dancers a voice, especially if they're wanting to. And there were dancers, throughout the years that have expressed wanting to dance in the future, wanting to teach in the future. And I am always of the mindset like, how do you get there without having the practice for it? And so you happen to be in that class setting when we were doing this program where you got to give a combination of your own work to a class and you gave feedback. And what I loved about that experience was I just noticed how effortless it was for you. There was, even if you were nervous, I had no idea because you just commanded a presence that was so, it was calm. You were there for the students and you had this beautiful connection to your own work, but there was not the ego side of it with it. Like, how like sometimes teachers, I'm just speaking kind of like sort of generally in some ways, sometimes there can be an ego with it. And you did not show that. Like you truly were there for the work and for the students. And I was just curious because, as at the time, a younger dancer, that was really incredible to see because I don't think that maturity wise, that is something that we come to know until a little bit later in life. Yet you always did demonstrate and show that. And so, being in that place, speaking from that perspective, in high school, did you know what you wanted to do with your dancing? Was teaching always, a dream of yours, or was it, dancing, teaching, choreography, like anything specific there?
Yeah, I think I just like always knew that I wanted to dance and have that in my life as like a main player. And I think I've always also kind of known that I'm okay with letting those different aspects of dance fluctuate. Like I want to indulge in all of them, but all of them like it doesn't all have to be simultaneously, but I do want to indulge in all of those things and I've known that for a long time.
Of course. So let's get out of that. We're talking about the past year and kind of like moving a little bit ahead. So, with graduating high school, you were accepted into the first class of CLI Conservatory led by Teddy Florence. And I remember the day, I remember all that. I remember the audition process. I remember you getting your materials together. And when you told me you were accepted, like this was so major. I think you had mentioned at the time that they only picked maybe like 40 or like 50 dancers worldwide, and you were one of them. And I knew this was going to be incredible for you, like such a jump off point. And so I know that there are so many different pathways that dancers can take from leaving high school, leading into the professional world, if that interests them. But could you share a bit about your transition from high school to conservatory? How was it different? If there was any lessons you learned, and how did it prepare you to bridge the gap from high school to the industry?
So transitioning from high school to conservatory was like definitely a challenge, but a really great challenge. I gained like a lot of security within myself. And I think at the beginning it was just this journey and this exploration of trying to reground myself like in a new environment and lead with honest and authentic intentions and like really stay driven to why I was there while I was just having like such a major and transitional life change. But this program, I just learned so many different things about myself professionally, artistically, um, about myself through relationships with other people. Like, I just really got to gauge consciousness about myself and all those other aspects, and also become aware of different patterns that lived within my movement and within my body, and get to rework those, learn about those throughout the conservatory. And I think it really gave me a big sense of stabilization and security within myself. The lessons and classes and things that were offered to me helped me navigate and learn a lot about myself. And I grew to be a person that was very different than when I started the conservatory, but someone that I needed to become to move to LA and do the work that I wanted to do. So I think it just gave me a path of clearer intention and also like a really great guide to go into working in the industry and like what type of work I want to bring to the table, how I want to be in spaces, how I want to show up artistically for myself and for others. So it just really gave me a clear energy flow.
That's great. And could you share like if there were any specific classes that really stuck out to you or, styles or titles of classes that stuck out to you as maybe the ones that propelled you to have the most growth or, what was like a typical day like for you in the conservatory?
Specific people that really propelled that. Robert Greene came the first week and he brought his assistant Grant Gilmore. And right off the bat from that, like that experience with Robert was just like so eye-opening and like energetically placed me where I wanted to be and like really set me off in a great place to be able to do the work that I wanted to for the rest of the year. And we had him come like back later in the year and it was just like amazing to see the growth from like the beginning until then and how much I learned about myself. Um, and a typical conservatory day, I believe, would be ballet from 8:30 to 10. We'd get to the studio like 8:15, 8:30. Ballet 8:30 to 10, class 10 to 11, lunch 11 to 12, class or rehearsal 1 to 3:30, rehearsal or class 3:30 to 5, break 5 to 6, then I think class 7 to 9 or 7 to 10. Something like that. But it would just like range from classes to seminars to rehearsals, all that.
Oh, wow. That's a big day. How many days of the week did you do that? Was it Monday through Friday or what? How many days?
So that was Monday through Friday. And then Saturday, it was like 3 to 7, break 7 to 8, then go like 8 to 10 or something.
So you got a ton of content, a ton of learning in that year.
Yeah, so much information in such like a short time span. So it was a lot to take in.
I can totally see though, having that amount of time and information, you're so immersed in it. It sounds like it was all you were doing basically Monday through Saturday. You were, living and breathing all of this, but it's what you love. And it was honestly, I feel like the way that it sounds, it really was a strong preparation for getting to know everything you may need to know before moving on to the professional world.
Definitely. It gave me a really great place of security and stabilization for myself.
That's great, especially because now after conservatory, I remember you mentioning that you were moving out to LA with friends, and it just seemed that you totally knew what you wanted and what you were after. But that is such a big move. I mean, that's a cross country move, and your family is here, on the East Coast. So when you were moving to LA, how was that initial change and shift for yourself?
It was definitely like took me a second to process. Like took me about 2 months to realize I was even living in LA. Yeah, I think it was just like another exploration of like regrounding myself in a new space and like reaccessing my intentions and getting acquainted with new energy. And it was like a lot about planting seeds and making connections and meeting new people. And it was just like really amazing to be immersed in a new place and have a new start. Definitely challenging, and it took me a second to get settled in, but like the journey overall was so amazing, and I learned so much about myself through it.
Did you ever, I feel like we may have talked about this actually, but for the episode, did you ever feel like you maybe wanted to go to New York City first where it was closer? Or did you always feel like LA was the place that you were going to be, and why LA versus New York City?
Yeah, I actually had a pull within myself about where to go. I think leading up to conservatory and like during conservatory, I was kind of driven to New York just because I love New York. I love so many different things about New dance scene in New York. Um, but then after that, I did an intensive this summer, and a lot of the people who like were leading the intensive were like industry people, and I aligned very much so with their work. And then they suggested that I go to LA and also all of CLI. Teddy was thinking LA for me. So then I was like kind of torn, and I had a roommate for New York, but that ended up falling through. And something about LA just like started to feel right. And like me just remembering the dance scenes that are out there compared to New York and like the type of work I wanted to do, it just felt more driven to go towards LA. And then like after that, one of my friends had just like texted me and asked if I wanted to move. And then from there, it was just like meant to happen. So it took me a second to get there, but ultimately, like I knew LA was right.
Oh, so that's awesome. So, okay, so you went from conservatory to LA, and what is the LA dance scene like as a young dancer in your 20s? Because I feel that so many, like you're talking about, feel the pull and the call to LA. Like the more dancers I talk to over the years, I don't know if it's like they want to get out of the winter and like be in sunny California or something like that. I don't know necessarily what it is, but a lot of times people will say, no, I want to go to LA. So there are so many out there interested. So I'd love for you to share a little bit of what is the LA dance scene like for maybe somebody who doesn't know.
Yeah, so in LA, there's just so much opportunity and so many different avenues of dance. There's a lot of commercial stuff, a lot of contemporary stuff, um, and everything in between musical theater. There's just so much opportunity and so many different types of artists that are so strong in what they do and what they feel. And like maybe it's not even a specific style, but there's just so many different driven people out here with different visions. So there's so much to cater to in regards to art because so much exists out here. Um, so there's just a lot of spaces for everything, for teaching, for classes, for shows that are going on, for clubs that happen every month that people get to perform in. There's just a lot of different endeavors as well as industry work.
It sounds like you've really found a beautiful space to be in because I know also, aside from your dancing and your style, speaking on art and the artists that are there in LA, you also are a truly gifted poet and artist. And I know that that has been something that you've always done and also shared from time to time. Like on social media or just in different places. And so, do you feel that your poetry, your art, and your dancing, do they all follow along a similar wavelength? What inspires that? And do you feel ever that those three are ever interconnected? Do you kind of merge, or are they very separate for yourself and your artistic expression?
So something I've learned is like every artistic endeavor I do is different in the tangible sense, but like energetically and the intention behind them is like all kind of the same thing coming from the same source. I'm just like expressing it in different ways through different avenues with different emotions, with different inspirations. So I definitely feel like they're all connected and they're all basically the same thing, just in different forms. And inspiration sources from a lot of different things for me. For dance creation, it's normally music. for poetry, it can be words or sounds or images or colors. And for painting, it's normally an image I see or a feeling or a color. But yeah, also just like life experiences and what I learn within myself. That's like the biggest place that I tend to pull from. But I do think they're very much all so connected.
I can definitely relate to that. I mean, I don't paint or write poetry, but I like writing, and I do find, like you said, this connection between the creativity. It's just my voice in a different way. It's the writing or it's the choreography and the movement. And, I'm just curious for choreography wise or improv wise, do you, as an artist, because you have these visual forms of art with your painting, you mentioned that when painting, you typically see an image. When you are choreographing, is that similar for you as well? Do you see the work in your mind, or is it more that you feel it through your body first?
It depends on the process because I've had instances where it's both. Um, it just depends on the state of creation I'm in because some days I'll just do it all standing up in front of a mirror, and then other days I won't even like leave my bed until it's done. So just like sometimes it's visualizing and sometimes it's doing it.
Yeah, I that makes a lot of sense to me. I sometimes for me it's like almost like I'm a very in my head visual person. So it's like I almost can see what it is that's happening, and it's funny at times because like sometimes in class or rehearsal I'll literally just be staring. Like I will stare at the floor and people may think I'm just like drifting off or doing my own thing, but what I'm doing is I'm seeing what's ahead or like I'm trying to formulate it. So I was just curious because when you mentioned the painting and seeing an image, for me, I so relate to that in the choreography sense.
Definitely.
And so, along with all of this, last year, fall of 2022, you moved to LA to now, fall 2023, you have your own class slot to teach. And when I saw that, I just like my heart felt so big for you because to me, that was such an incredible moment and so quick in the scene of, or in the sense of your timeline of just seeing what has happened from your high school graduation to now. And so I'm just so curious, what is teaching like in LA? How do you approach your class? And how has your teaching philosophy begun to develop?
Yeah, so I'm just like so first off, so grateful that I have a space in LA to like show up to every week and just play and explore and like just have an open space for me to kind of cultivate and find what I want to in my spaces. I think in regards to like building and approaching my class, like number one, it's been just like a lot of openness and a lot of play and a lot of like reciprocated energy between me and like the dancers within the class. Like it feels like I'm learning as much from them as much as they are from me. And that's been like a really nice investigation. And I've just been trying to go in every week with like a really open mind and a big space for play. Something I've been doing is like taking little things and avenues of dance that I'm working on within myself and making them like the forefront in the lesson of the class. So it gives like me a really clear direction to teach and also to continue to learn about what I'm working on and to share something like an honest experience with someone that I'm learning about right now. And just like building a philosophy within my class has just started to spark from a lot of curiosity and play and discipline and structure and abandoning structure and just like a lot of different concepts that I'm trying to tie together and articulate. And I think the more that I enter the space, the more that that will build for me.
I do love hearing that because when you said that for you, you are learning from your students just as much as you are teaching, that is exactly what I was talking about in the first teaching experience that I saw for you. You were there for the whole experience. And I think that is such a beautiful reminder for all of us dance teachers and, teachers in general that when you are the teacher, you have a beautiful
role to also always be learning from what's in front of you. And like you were just talking about, the reciprocated energy. I love that you said that phrase because I think the more that we do that, the more depth our classes are going to have. Because if we are just teaching at our students, there's never going to be that wall that breaks down or that barrier that comes down for that play that you were talking about as well, and those experiences, because it's going to be sort of like, this is my way, this is what I'm saying, this is what you're doing. And the most beautiful class experiences that I have seen are a shared experience, in the sense that whatever energy the dancers are giving back to the teacher in that moment can kind of spontaneously guide, shift, or continue the class through that energy. And for me, that I think is just such an important lesson for all teachers to remember. Okay, so we were speaking on your teaching. We've also gotten to speaking on your process in the choreography sense, but I also wanted to talk a little bit about, along with your style, the teaching you're doing, you also have had choreography featured in shows and events. And could you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah. So in I think March of 2022, no, 2023, this year, March of 2023, I submitted to have work presented in the Journey Dance Awards, which is just an award show that started in LA this year. And it was really nice. I got to like cast my own piece and present my own work, which was like overall a great experience. And there was just like a good handful of us that presented work that day, which was really nice. And I ended up placing third in the event, which was cool. And then this year, my friend Lily Chumes was offered and asked to put on a whole production in a theater. So she asked me to choreograph for the show and be a part of the show, which I'm really grateful to do. So those are the two experiences I had in theaters. And then I also recently just made a concept video, which I'll be releasing soon. So a lot of fun stuff.
That is amazing. Oh, I love all of that. And I have seen a couple of your concept videos or work that you've done with friends that you've shared on your social media pages. And I just absolutely love what you're doing. And I love the freedom that you have in exploring all of these different concepts and ways of movement. It's just so beautiful to see how you are continuing to evolve.
Thank you so much.
Of course. So I wanted to just finish off with a couple important little quick questions here, because some of them are just for fun, and some of them I think are very important for younger dancers or any type of dance teacher to hear about as well. So we let's get into some of these. So, the first question I have is, if you could meet or talk with any dance legend or human legend in your eyes, who would it be?
So one legend that I would absolutely love to meet is Nina McNeely, who's a professional working in the industry right now. I've always just been really inspired by Nina's work and the multitudes of art that she uses within them. She does a lot of things with like lighting and imagery. It's just really beautiful to see someone create in such a specific and articulate way. And I've never seen anything like it before.
That sounds really beautiful. I would love to see some of her work. All right, next question. Performing, teaching, or choreography? I know that you love all three, but if you had to pick one, what might your favorite be?
Um, I think if I had to choose one, it'd probably be teaching. Just because I feel like I have the most control over my environment. Like I do in all senses, but I really like being able to guide and like lead a space.
I totally know what you mean on that for sure. And it is such a beautiful thing, teaching in general. So,
Hmm.
all right. So, what is one of your favorite pieces of music or artists that you like to move to these days?
I feel like I always, no matter what state in my life I'm in, I always find myself coming back to Lana Del Rey. Like all of her songs are just so beautiful.
Yes. Love Lana. Yes. All right. If you could give any advice to an aspiring younger dancer, whether it be for dance or teaching, what would it be?
I think one really integral piece of information that I've learned is like your path is your path. And like nothing, there's no rules, there's no guidelines, there's nothing, there's nowhere to get. Like everything you need exists within you, and you have all of the intuitive pulls, you have the gut answers, you have the answers to your questions, you have all the solutions living within you, and like you have everything that you need to trust your own path and your own gut. So I think just like continuing to find a sense of intuitive pull and grounded direction within yourself, and like really trusting what you feel on your path and not letting that get swayed by anyone else. And I think that opens up so much play, whether it's like in the studio, in life experiences, and where you're going to move and what you're going to wear to class and how you're going to show up to the room. I think that that just filters through so much. So just the control and gaining control over your journey and your vision and what you want for yourself.
You have always shown that quality for sure. Like the advice that you're giving is literally how I've seen you live your life. And I think that is such an important quality to have because you really live from your heart. You, like you were talking about, your intuitive pulls and things that are guiding you, the solutions are within. And I remember through your time that I knew you and the studio setting, there were times where you felt very strong pulls for or not for something. And it was really always important for me to hear these things as a teacher. I learned so much. And I also really enjoyed watching your journey unfold for you. You let your journey be your own, and it took you to these beautiful places. And so I think that's a great lesson for all that, really following the instinct is going to take you to where you want to be. And it's so hard because we live in a world, I think, where it's very easy to be shaped by others and to be influenced by others. And sometimes that takes on so much that we forget our own individual voice. And so, you also grew up during a time where social media really hit like big. Like I want to say you, like for me, there was a time in my life where social media was not a thing at all. Like it wasn't until I was in college that Facebook became a thing. Instagram was completely new to me, in my adulthood. And so was there any part of your journey where did you ever feel that influence by others to be some way, or did you always feel like you were following your intuitive guide?
I think there were moments where I was definitely challenged to follow my gut or my intuition, and I think sometimes I didn't and sometimes I did, but if there were instances like where I didn't follow that, they were really just like lessons for me to learn how to follow that. So yeah, I think, and I'm still going to have experiences where I don't always follow my intuition or my gut because I'm still peeling back layers and like meeting new parts of myself that are deeper and more vulnerable to work with. So I think it's just about showing up for those experiences and those lessons and being aware of them and being ready to face them.
Definitely. And this kind of goes into my next question for you. If you could give advice to a dance teacher about their energy and communication with younger dancers, what would it be? And like in a way, what did young Sadie want to hear?
It's so interesting because now I'm like in a space where I'm teaching and taking class simultaneously. So I've just like started to become a lot more aware of like the energy in the room, and like I think one of the biggest things is like the consciousness of like the interaction of like me and the students or the teacher and the students, and just like how that energy is, because I feel like in the moment it's really nice to be able to play off of that intuitively to cater to the space and like what we need that day. And then I also think I just needed to be like cracked open when I was younger, just like a nudge or a push. I think just like a lot of encouragement to step outside of the box or to keep opening up new realms of things and to keep playing, because like a lot of things that I have learned like in dance, like I can't like play with them unless they're brought to my consciousness. So I think just like that continuation of development of material or things that we're learning or talking about, and also just like the push and the drive to continue to keep showing up as myself authentically for myself.
Yes, such an important thing about guiding and encouraging authenticity. I think we need more of that. And, I'm teaching in a completely different setting in a way than you are at this current time, because I'm in a dance studio with, dancers that are more in the school age kind of grouping. And I sometimes feel like everything has more structure in a sense versus that ability to play. But how beautiful would it be if we made sure or took the time to incorporate that play to help our dancers to find their authentic selves, or to encourage that safety and that type of environment for them.
Definitely.
So I completely and totally appreciate you being here on Dance Teacher Pep Talk. I so deeply from my heart want to thank you for being here. But before I let you go, can you let our audience know how to find you? If it's Instagram or email, like where can we find you?
Yeah, I'd say the easiest way is Instagram, and my handle is Sadie Guthrie _, same spelling as in the episode.
Awesome. I will make sure to include that in the show notes. So thank you so much again, Sadie. I so appreciate you.
Thank you. I'm truly so honored and so grateful that I was given a platform and a space to come on and talk about this and to have a chance to connect with you again. It's been so beautiful.
Thank you.
Thank you so much again, Sadie, for coming on Dance Teacher Pep Talk podcast. I hope that all of you enjoyed this conversation just as much as I did. This conversation really showed a constantly changing and ever evolving journey that we can have from young dance age to our after school years. And it's just so wonderful hearing about Sadie's journey and seeing the different avenues that we can take in our own journey. And I hope this inspires you. I hope that you also maybe share this with your students as well to inspire future career paths. And also, just like Sadie was talking about, making sure that we're always staying true and authentic to ourselves and our own life path. And I just love the different ways that she shared about that today. So if you are looking to follow Sadie on Instagram, you can find her at Sadie Guthrie _. I'll include that in the show notes for you all. And I hope you all have a beautiful week. And if you feel called to share this episode with friends, I would so appreciate that. And thank you all so much for your listens. I'm so excited to continue this month of Dance Teacher Pep Talk with you all. We have so many amazing episodes planned for our 2024 season. So thank you so much for listening today, and we'll talk soon.